Today we are talking about what could have happened, what would have happened, what the sports entertainment business might have looked like had there not been a Montreal Screwjob. And Alex, you sort of teed me up. My first massive occurrence that would not have happened without the Montreal Screwjob would be the emergence of the Mr. McMahon character. Mr. McMahon, to me, to a lot of people, was the ultimate villain, but he was armed with reality on his side, like perhaps no bad guy in the history of the business. Mr. McMahon, it is exposed, owns the company. So now the infamous, I didn't screw Brett, Brett screwed Brett. That interaction made Mr. McMahon the most dislikable character in sports entertainment history in that moment, because it was real. Because everybody in the world, everybody watching, whether you watch WCW or WWE, you could relate to having a boss that you couldn't stand. Mm-hmm. You could relate to a boss with an iron fist. And though it would take a while for McMahon to fully swing into the character, the completed walk and talk and you're fired, that spark was such a force that everyone watching went, oh God, I bet my boss feels that way about me.
You can relate to that. Yeah. It's one of those things that we talk about it, Corey. Where's that gray line? Where's that blurred image? And we've talked about it a few times here with some of the stories currently. That was the first time, guys, it was kind of like, holy bleep. Wait a minute now. That can't be real. Is that real? Hey, did you guys see that? It was fascinating. Still to this day, fascinating.
And that's probably the biggest butterfly effect of this whole thing, if the screw job doesn't happen, is that the Mr. McMahon character doesn't start at least that way. Okay. And then Austin still rises. Austin still becomes the biggest thing in the company, I think. But without him having McMahon to bounce off of,
right?
Does it become the thing that shifts the Monday Night Wars? Does WWE buy out WCW? Like, that is the biggest ripple effect there, is the McMahon character being born from that moment.
Right. And to your point, Dan, I say no. I don't believe Stone Cold reaches the astronomical heights that he does and become a genuine phenomenon in American pop culture, to where people who weren't even wrestling fans knew Stone Cold. They still do to this day. But he doesn't reach those heights, in my opinion, without the ultimate bad guy to fight, to rage against. Mr. McMahon.
That's the storyline that everyone talked about the next morning. I mean, every Tuesday morning, I remember at school before class, people would be like, yeah, and then he filled his boss's car up with concrete. Like, they weren't talking about the matches. These were people that didn't watch wrestling, but they would hear about this crazy redneck that was like beating up his boss all the time.
It's the moments you think about that butterfly effect that you use, Dan. With no Austin, is the Attitude Era the Attitude Era? Probably not. No. Do we know who Dwayne Johnson becomes without that moment in time? I even started thinking about Mr. Sacco and all these other little things that pop up. Do they happen? Because if Brett stays, I don't think WWE turns this corner into this Attitude Era, this edginess. Does DX become DX? Is there a New Age Outlaws? Is there a China?
I actually think, Vic, that all eventually does somewhat happen, but I just don't know if it's as effective if the Mr. McMahon character doesn't take the strides that he takes after the screw job occurs. So I think we could look at this in two separate ways. So Brett stays. They decide to honor his 20-year contract, and Brett finishes out effectively his career in WWE. Does Mr. McMahon still happen if that screw job never occurs in that way? Or Brett decides, hey, I'm still going to leave for WCW, but the screw job doesn't take off, and Shawn beats Brett, fair and square, for the WWE Championship on that night in Survivor Series, and Brett still goes to WCW. We can look at this in two different ways. Does Mr. McMahon still happen in either of those scenarios?
Alex, no, I don't think it does.
He does.
I think Mr. McMahon was such a result of a perfect storm, where the internet, to our previous point, was just sort of kind of coming into its own. Fans now had a lot more access to the business than they ever did. I mean, it's nothing compared to what we have access to nowadays. But in that time, if you didn't subscribe to a physical newsletter or you wanted some information, I remember there was a particular magazine I used to read. My dad would pick it up at certain supermarkets because you could only find it in one of about 5 places nearby. And it would actually utilize superstars' real names or explain just little, surface level controversy. But I was so fascinated and enamored. And in that point in time, much of our fan base, I think, was kind of craving more information. They were getting a little more sophisticated, a little more educated, and everybody had their own opinion. But when the screw job went down, there was only one clear bad guy, and it was It wasn't even the Mr. McMahon character yet. It was the boss. While we're speculating, what if it's not Vince McMahon that we had known as our TV announcer? What if it's a character that is put in that role? What if all of a sudden they cast Sergeant Slaughter or the guy who would go on to become Isaac Yankem and Kane? And what if he all of a sudden is the mysterious CEO of WWE? We don't have Kane. What if somebody else is thrust in that role?
Or Jack Tunney's grandson comes in to run the company.
This is why you're not allowed to speak.
Okay.
This is why you ruin everything. You're like my dog Pancake. When you're on a good roll, everyone's having a good time. Really, my brain's firing, my tongue is not tripping on itself, and then cue Vic Joseph with nonsensical garbage.
Well, so here's the thing. I think even if this moment doesn't create the McMahon character, I think eventually you have to acknowledge him on air as the owner, because you're already starting to see that with the rise of the internet. You see it with Pillman saying, "I respect you, Booker Man," to Kevin Sullivan.
I respect you, Booker Man.
This stuff was happening. ECW is starting to kind of pull back the curtain and do more stuff like this.
Take me back to WCW. Let me be a mid-card wrestler. Let me just scramble around. Let me get no dues. Don't give me nothing.
So it was just a matter of time. I think if it was not the screw job, Vince would have gone into more of an on-air owner role. But I think this just launched him into that stratosphere of like evil supervillain from the jump.
If you remember, I mentioned back October 21st, 96, which is when Brett kind of comes back after that 6-month hiatus and announces he's staying with the WWE, and that, you know, he doesn't say on TV he signs a 20-year contract, but if you read any of the dirt sheets or called the phone numbers, you knew that's what was going on. After watching that segment back, Jim Ross is interviewing him in the ring. There are these weird camera cuts where they start showing Mr. McMahon, who is just the commentator at this point in time, his reaction to Brett's statements in the ring about whether he was going to leave or stay, that he was getting offers from WCW. He never mentioned WCW by name, but a rival wrestling promotion is the language he learned. And they start showing Mr. McMahon's reaction to this. It's almost as if even back then they were kind of setting up this to happen at some point.
Well, and there's still a lot of people that to this very day swear the whole thing was a storyline. And you know what? I honestly don't think we will ever truly know, and I don't want to, because it's fun because we get to speculate about stuff like this. What would have happened, what wouldn't have happened, what else could have happened.
It's kind of like, where's Hoffa?
Yeah, exactly.
No one's ever going to know. Like, it's going to be great speculation. One day, maybe on a deathbed, somebody will write a note and hand it over on their final breath. But I don't think
in our business, somebody on their deathbed's going to write a note that's complete BS just to work everybody.
Yeah, that's true too.
Like,
One last rib.
Yeah, it was me, Austin. It was me all along. Like what you hear? Catch full episodes of After the Bell on Spotify. Follow us now and never miss an episode.